All right, so my topic or my right is, do you have the right to physically defend yourself against police officers who illegally enter your home? And before we dive into the nitty-gritty of this case, I have to tell you this is only for the state of Ohio. It might apply in other states, but it won't be for the same cases, and it won't be for the same reasons. So if you live in Kentucky, this doesn't apply to you, or it might, but not for this case. So the first case we'll have to look at is State versus Brown. And in this case, some sheriff deputies were called out to a disturbance. Some woman, Mrs. Browning, she was threatening people with scissors, and she was fighting her neighbors. The deputies go out there, there's dispatched, they talk to her, they talk to the witnesses, and they tell her, hey, if we have to come back out here tonight, we're going to arrest you. And they go on their way. Lo and behold, an hour later, they're back, they get another call. She doesn't have scissors this time, but she's fighting her neighbors. When they showed up on scene, she was inside of a mobile home. This is important because this was her place of residence, so she lived at this campground. It was considered her home. As far as law is concerned, this is where she lived. And she never saw, the deputies never physically saw her outside of that mobile camper, so they were talking to the witnesses. They come up, they knock on the door, they say, hey, you're under arrest, come out here. She goes, no, I don't want to. So they had no exigent circumstances. It wasn't hot pursuit, it wasn't anything like that. They didn't have a warrant, but they got a crowbar and they cracked the door open. When they cracked that door open, she was standing right there. They grabbed her wrist, she pulled away, she ran away. Deputies followed, she threw bleach in their faces. They washed it off. Eventually, they arrest her and they convict her of assault against a police officer and disorderly conduct. And she appeals to the first appellate court saying, hey, they illegally entered my home. It was a legal search. Don't I have the right to defend myself? And as we see in the Fourth Amendment, you have the right against unreasonable searches and seizures. So they said, no, you don't. And then she appealed again, and they were kind of right in that. The Supreme Court of Ohio, which is this one here, they focused more on the fact that it was illegal, but you do not have the right to defend yourself against people that you know are police officers who illegally enter your home. So that pretty much encompasses the whole question. It's not an entitled action. You can't go, if you know it's a cop. So there's a thing with Breonna Taylor in Kentucky, which again is different from the state of Ohio. He did not know they were police officers. They did not tell her. Well, she knew for sure, 100%, that it was sheriff's deputies entering her home. And she threw bleach in her faces, and that's not an entitled action in the state of Ohio. So that pretty much encompasses it.
So what if the police hadn't stated that they were?
Then it's good. It's more of a case-by-case basis for sure. It's got to be seen as a reasonable person would say that's not a police officer. Like if they kicked their door in the middle of the night, came to her bedroom, and then she threw bleach in their faces, it'd probably be seen as a little different in that point. But it wasn't. She knew they were officers. They were telling her, "Hey, you're under arrest through the door." They'd already seen her earlier that night.
So, in the case of a no-knock warrant, would defending yourself be okay if they didn't openly state? Like they wake you up in the middle of the night?
There's this saying they call it lawful but awful, and that's just kind of how it is. You probably will be charged initially. You'll have to fight in court. That's just the way those things go. But they'll shoot back. The cops will. If you, like say, if you were fighting, they'll fight you back. It's what's going to happen. It's lawful but unlawful. I'm sorry, lawful but lawful. So yeah, it's more about you have to know it's a police officer, and if you do, you have no right to fight them. Manage your Thank you.
Real quick question. So that problem is confounding, right? Because a person could easily, so we're talking about really seconds, making decisions in seconds. So it would be really easy for someone, if they wanted to do harm to someone else, or bravado or whatever, to yell police as they come in.
Right.
And disable them by a second or two before they determine that this is not really wrong for them, right? Have you read anywhere? Is there a solution to this? Is there a way to address this problem?
I haven't read anything that says otherwise. It's just one of those gray areas, you know? It's what they say. It was a big argument for that no-knock warrant thing. It's, hey, what makes me not be able to kick in a door and yell police and then these people won't be able to fight me? It's just, again, one of those awful but lawful things. There's no two ways around it. It's a necessary evil.
So it sounds like, in this case,
She just asked really,
supported. Do you think there's a good way to describe
I would say relatively rare.
it sounds like you really
It depends, you know. A lot of it's got to do with what they're going after, right? So if it's somebody, let's say it's a drug house and they're known to be violent with the police, they have weapons, that the judge might say, hey, yeah, you're good, you can have a no-knock warrant.
That's why the judge
would authorize a no-knock warrant. What about a nighttime warrant? Is that rare?
No, not at all. A lot of warrants are served early morning.
Is
So
that nighttime?
pretty much, yeah. I mean,
It depends on the definition of the warrant.
yeah.
So if I come to your house and I'm knocking on the door, boom, 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 police, we have a search warrant. And you don't think it's the police. You think it's somebody else.
Right.
And you shoot through the door.
I
You
would,
covered?
no, it's not an entitled action. That's kind of what this state
What do you
said.
think's gonna happen next?
They're gonna shoot back.
Shoot back. And your friend is standing next to you at the door and she gets shot and killed. Are the police liable?
Again, it depends. You know, it kind of does. It was a self-defense shooting on his part, but not. So if they stated police, I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think they're liable. If they said, hey, if it was actually the police that were knocking on the door and you shot through, there is the problem with like wanton endangerment of people shooting through doors. You can't do that really. You got to know what you're shooting at. But
There's the case of Louisville, Kentucky.
Breonna Taylor case, yeah,
Okay. Do you know what's happening in that case at the moment?
not at the moment. I haven't followed that.
You know the officers are being charged in that case. You know what they're being charged with?
No, I knew one was wanton endangerment. I knew one was wanton endangerment.
He was fired through the wall.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, the main charge right now is that people lied in the affidavit for the search warrant. The facts that they stated to the judge, which caused the judge to conclude the warrant were in fact false. That's what
So one is,
so it's
can
going
the
to go
judge
down
give
the
a
drain,
felon bail?
including the fact that they started off on the law.
I would say off gut, yes, depending on the severity of the crime.